Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we're going to talk about the law, morality, and what it means to do what is right, and whether or not you should listen to the law. But first, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com to sign up for all of our latest content via our weekly email newsletter. And I know I say weekly, but I'm pretty bad at it. I will try to get back to that this week. Whenever I'm out of town, obviously I'm busy, I can't get to it, but I will be sending out the newsletter this coming weekend. Also, I'd invite you guys to find us on minds.com, on Steemit, on Discord, on our Remind text list, of course on YouTube, and if you want to support, join Patreon. And I just put out a video yesterday about some new shirts that we got, so if you want to support us by buying t-shirts or books, then check that out on the website as well. Alright, well, let's dive right into this. This is coming from Courthouse News Service. State judge charged with helping man evade immigration agent. Now, this is a really interesting case because it involves a judge, which is obviously typically the person upholding the law. This is a district court judge by the name of Shelley M. Richmond. Judge Shelley M. Richmond departs federal court on Thursday in Boston after facing obstruction of justice charges for allegedly helping a man in the country illegally evade immigration officials as he left her Newton, Massachusetts courthouse in 2018. So what's the story on this? This judge was indicted Thursday after she let this dude out of her court, and apparently so did a court officer, now former court officer Wesley McGregor, and they're both being charged with obstruction of justice based on accusation that they schemed to let the man escape after a hearing last year on charges that included drug possession. So the charges against both the judge and the former court officer were condemned in a statement from the state's attorney general, who called the case, quote, a radical and politically motivated attack on the courts by federal authorities. So district court judge, the federal authorities come in, and now they're trying to hold them accountable. Lawyers, judges, and advocates have criticized Donald Trump's administration for stepping up immigration arrests at courthouses, saying that it's disrupting the criminal justice system and scaring people away from halls of justice. Apparently this didn't always happen, but it did happen under the Obama administration. So for those who want to say this is just Trump, it did happen under the Obama administration. But I guess at some point it was seen as unsavory and just not right to arrest people at courthouses because, you know, if you get a summons, if you get a warrant, everybody's got to go to court. You can't really avoid that, otherwise you'll get in a warrant. And to the authorities, they're like, hey, well, we looked up and saw that this person who is wanted for this or that crime or is an illegal immigrant or whatever you want to call them is going to go to court on this day. So let's just arrest them at court. Now, again, some people think that this is wrong. And apparently Massachusetts U.S. Attorney Andrew Lelling said that the charges were not political in any way, but that they were about holding everyone to the rule of law, even the privileged and the powerful. Lelling said, quote, from certain corners I have heard the occasional gasp of dismay or outrage at the notion of holding a judge accountable for violating federal law. But if the law is not applied equally, it cannot be credibly applied to anyone. Now that I do agree with. If you're going to have any sense of law, which as it stands right now, the law that we know is mainly just the law of man, the law that has been mandated by the state. The state gets to decide what is just, what is right, and all those sort of things. But there are also those of us who understand the idea of natural law or even common law, right? Just the idea of morality itself. And then on the other side, you have people say that there is no such thing as morality. And if we didn't have a state or a government to force us to all be good, there would just be chaos in the streets, right? So both the judge and the court officer pled not guilty during their appearances in Boston federal court. And the judge was fighting back tears as she left the courthouse. Her attorney said, quote, this prosecution is absolutely political. Shelley Joseph is absolutely innocent. So this is what took place. She was appointed as a judge in 2017. She's currently being suspended without pay while she awaits her trial. And the federal authorities say that an immigration agent was in her courtroom to detain the man who appeared in her courthouse in April 2018. This Dominican man, who had twice been deported and had been barred from entering the U.S. until 2027. So he'd already been deported twice, wasn't supposed to come back till 2027, and he was back in the courthouse on drug charges. Authorities say that the judge and her clerk asked the agent to leave the room and told him that the suspect would be released into the courthouse lobby into the Immigration, Customs and Enforcement, ICE, hands. However, after the hearing, the judge and the court officer led the defendant, this Dominican man who was in the country illegally, downstairs to the lockup and let him out a back door. He was later caught by immigration officials about a month later, and he's now dealing with his own immigration proceedings. And as I said, Trump has resisted calls to add courthouses to the list of so-called sensitive locations that are free from immigration enforcement, which currently includes schools and places of worship. And as I also said, that this has happened under Obama's administration before, but lawyers are saying that it has increased under Trump's administration, which makes sense because he promised to like close down the border and, build a wall and go after immigrants. So that's the basics of the case, right? A judge who I'm guessing she felt she had a moral issue with the law and thought, well, okay, you know what, this man is, I don't know what she thought. I don't want to assume to think, for her. But let's just say that she thought it was wrong. I mean, obviously, if her and the court officer are assisting in letting this man out of the court and letting him escape being arrested by ICE, you can assume then that she didn't want him to be arrested because she felt like he needed to be free. So this creates this discussion, right? I know some of you guys are out there, well, he broke the law, so lock him up, right? Well, let's just switch it up. Let's imagine this was somebody locked up or about to get locked up for cannabis charges or some victimless crime like that. Or let's just imagine they ran a bunch of stop signs, but they never harmed anybody, or they didn't wear their seatbelt. Something else that we generally consider to be victimless, right? Where it's an individual acting of their own volition and making their own choices. And there's no harm. There's no individual that was, found to be harmed by their actions. And they were in court and they were waiting to be sentenced. And the judge had a change of heart and said, you know what? Despite the fact that the law says this is illegal, I am going to let this person go because I can't see where there's a victim. Now, that's kind of rare. Most of us would hope the judge would do that. But because it's about immigration, it gets a little more sticky because people are very, they're very emotional about immigration. And I've talked about immigration and borders quite a bit. You guys can look on this channel, search immigration or borders on our website or on our YouTube channel, and you'll find my videos about that. But briefly, what I say about immigration as it relates to this case is like, look, even, you guys know I want to build an intentional community. Let's say I build my intentional community, and yes, we have some sort of wall or some sort of protection around our borders, our perimeter, because we want to keep people out that we don't want in. So you could say that's our immigration policy for that small community. We would have a certain amount of regulations or restrictions on who and who cannot come in there and what they can do on our piece of property, right? That's just normal. But that is a bit different from the state, which is funded by involuntary taxation, extortion, stolen money from the people, and the state is essentially just a gang. Yes, some of you out there think the state's there to protect you, and so borders are there to protect you. But at the end of the day, the state is much different than saying, me as an individual or me and my friends are going to form a community, and if we caught you in our community several times and we told you, hey, you're banned, man, you keep coming back, you're banned, and we catch you again and say we catch you with drugs or violating our set of rules and norms, and we use our internal judicial system, you could say, like, we wouldn't necessarily have a court, but we would have some way to deal with people who violate the rules, right? Any good community would. And let's say one member of our community thinks that, hey, this is wrong. I don't think we should be punishing this guy. So the rest of us are expecting to punish this person who has violated our norms several times, who has then come in and committed something that we consider to be a crime, and we're waiting to see how we should hold them accountable. And then one of our community members lets them out the back door, and so we are unable to hold them accountable. We would probably be kind of pissed, like, yo, what the hell, dude? Like, this is our community. This person broke the rules. We're trying to, hold a standard here, and you just let them go. So taking it down to the community level, I can understand, like, how that would work. But when we're talking about this larger state infrastructure, it's a little bit different. For me personally, I don't think that human beings can be illegal per se, especially not when the state's involved. As I said, I do believe that there can be, quote unquote immigration rules for who you let in and out of your community. But that's only just for you and your piece of land or your piece of property. That's not for the entire United States, where in this situation, Donald Trump and the statists in the U.S. government, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, believe they have a right to determine who you can have over to do business with, or who you can invite in from another country, another place, if they're quote unquote illegal, if they don't have the right paperwork, right? And this judge obviously thought that there was an issue with that. And so she decided to make a judgment. Now, the problem with that is that since the state runs everything, even a judge who maybe thought that she would somehow be, not held accountable, or she would be allowed to go free, or I don't know what she thought. But now this judge, who is a part of the state because she enforces the state's rule of law, right? Most judges don't interpret whether or not they think the law is right. They just interpret whether or not you violated the law, right? So as a jury, when it comes to jury nullification, you can say, hey, we think that the law is wrong. We're not going to enforce this. And that's why judges try to really keep people from understanding what jury nullification is about, because their role is enforcement, just like the cops. The statists, the politicians, they make the laws, they create the laws out of whatever the heck they feel like, and then the police arrest people based on those laws, and then the judges enforce those laws. And if a judge chooses to go against the state, obviously they will be punished. So on one hand, I can agree with this lawyer's statement where he says that the law should be applied to everyone, even the privileged and the powerful. Otherwise, it's not going to be credibly applied to anyone. And I agree with that. But dude, I mean, come on, let's be real about this. The law is already not applied equally to everybody. People with power, power and money, like let's say Jeffrey Epstein and others, they get away with things all the time. The judge in those cases aren't letting them, aren't actually holding them accountable. If a judge really wanted to be about it, let's say all the politicians are like, hey, this Jeffrey Epstein guy is in our court, we're going to have to let him go because otherwise he's going to expose too many people, then a real judge would say, fuck that, we're going to hold this guy accountable no matter what you think. Maybe they would get killed, maybe they would die, whatever, who knows. But my point is that we have to think in terms of what is right, what is moral, not what is legal. And that's probably one of the biggest problems in our world, is that so many people blindly worship authority first, and then because they worship authority, if that authority gives them a set of rules or laws or whatever, they do it just because, well, the law says, right? Think about some parents, they might ask, is it okay for me not to vaccinate my kid? Is it legal for me not to vaccinate my kid? They don't think, are my kids going to be safe? Are my kids going to be okay? They think, is it legal? Will I be in trouble, right? So they're thinking more in terms of what is the law going to do? And that's because we have all been raised in this society where the state can punish you. It can take away your freedom. It can take away your life. It can take away your money, your time, and your energy. I grew up around a parent who is very much obedient to authority. Even when she knew that the cops were wrong, she was just very submissive and obedient to them. And I always hated that. And so as I've grown up, I've realized that, just because somebody's wearing a badge doesn't mean that they know anything better than me. And it doesn't mean that I have to just blindly respect them. Just because somebody's wearing a priest collar, they're in a lab coat, they're a politician, they're a priest, they're a teacher, what have you, any position of authority, that doesn't automatically grant you authority over my life and mean that you're right, or just because you got some letters next to your name. So at the end of the day, this whole rant, this whole video, I think what you should take away is that you have to do, I encourage each of you who are hearing this to do what is right, not to do what the state says. And I guess in this case, this judge did what she felt was right. Unfortunately, she's now going to be punished for it. And yeah, so that's what I want you guys to think about. Those of you who are hearing this case and say, yeah, I get that, Derrick, the law's not always right, but illegal immigrants, white people are disappearing, yada, 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 whatever. Get over yourself and think about what's right, not what the state wants and not what you've been propagandized to believe. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And that does help, man. I know I kind of just run through that, but if you do want to help and you can't support monthly through Patreon, or you can't buy a shirt, shares on social media do help. Even though I don't want to use Facebook or any of those tools, if you're on there, please share my content, upload my videos. It's all free for you to use. Take it, put it anywhere you want, download it, go post it, upload it to libraries, do whatever you want. Just share the content because it goes a long way. And this is how we're going to win the information war, the ideas, the battle of ideas that's taking place in our world, by putting out content and articles and information that gets people thinking on a brand new level. And that's my goal. So I ask you guys to join me in that effort and share my content when you can. Until next time, guys, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.